So we've spent the whole month of November exploring the New Thought metaphysical teachings of the Wizard of Oz. So we're bringing that to a close today, even though next week we are seeing the movie, The Wizard of Oz, which I can't wait to see. We're going to bring it to a close today as we conclude our trip of Over the Rainbow. And I was going to ask Norman to sing that, but I didn't think it was in his repertoire.
I actually do have that.
Let's do it.
Excuse me, there might be a new closing song. All right. Okay.
I'll look. I do have.
Anyway, we're going to bring it all home with the close of Over the Rainbow. Norman will sing it first.
If I have it.
Because today we're going to look at the concept that there is no place like home. And before we do that, I have a couple of Wizard of Oz trivia questions that I'm sure a lot of you know. First of all, this one's really a trivia one. What's the name of the horse that drew the carriage that Dorothy and the gang rode in when they arrived in Oz?
Wow.
Somebody knows.
The horse of many colors.
What?
Yes.
Is that true?
Dang.
Sylvester. Sylvester, the horse of many colors.
Oh, that was his name.
Where else did that horse appear in the movie? That horse was he was in another scene. Where? He was somewhere else.
In the farm?
Yes, the farm. That's
Yes.
right. He belonged to Professor Marvel. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna see the movie next week. I should have shown it before. What song was cut for the movie and then resurrected from the cutting room?
Over the rainbow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Over the Rainbow.
Welcome.
And why was it originally cut?
Why?
Yeah, there was a
They
reason.
didn't think it was any good.
There was another reason. It was too long. They thought it would slow the movie down. Interesting, right? And who was originally cast as the Tin Man?
Buddy,
All right. Boy, you guys know your trivia. I wouldn't have known any of this. Why was he replaced?
Because he couldn't deal with the makeup. He couldn't deal with the makeup.
allergic reaction.
He had an allergic reaction, lead poisoning. He got lead poisoning from the costume. How many scenes were the Wizard of Oz and Glinda appeared together in?
1, 5, 0. 2?
0.
Yes.
And what was the original color of Dorothy's shoes?
Yellow.
White.
White. Black.
Silver. Why would they change to red?
This is a black and white movie.
It was one of the first, it was the first movie that was in Technicolor. And yeah, the silver did not show up. So the red showed up better in Technicolor. And we got one more. How did the author Frank Baum come up with the name Oz? Some of you know.
Cabinet.
Yes.
Who does he?
He was telling stories to his children about a faraway land. And one child asked what was the name of that land. And he looked over to his filing cabinets and he saw A to M and then O to Z. And the land of Oz was born. Isn't that good? Oh, yeah. So today we look at the idea that there really is no place like home. There really is. And T.S. Eliot once wrote these wonderful lines. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and to know the place for the first time. Remember that? I love that.
Yeah.
So great. So what does it really mean, though? Sounds nice. What does it mean? The story of Dorothy tells us very, very clearly what it means. From the beginning of the story, even before Dorothy goes on her adventure over the rainbow, she is looking to go home. isn't she? She's always looking to go home, to fit in, to belong to somewhere. And a lot of us, maybe at some time in our life, have felt that. Now, obviously, I don't mean a physical home, because she already is there, but something isn't right. Something really isn't right. She doesn't know the place, and she doesn't know how to feel, but she's searching. Like many of us, she's searching for a home or something that fulfills her because of the emptiness within her. She isn't happy. She isn't fulfilled, satisfied, or loved. She's ignored by Auntie Em and Uncle Henry and by everyone else on the farm. And she's gotten herself into trouble with the law. Well, actually, the Toto. He got himself in trouble with the law in the beginning. But Dorothy sets it up as a ploy for attention. So for her, it's, yeah, she wanted some attention. So she isn't home, even though she is in a physical place called home. So from a metaphysical interpretation, she doesn't know who she is. She's not connected to her inner divinity. There's no connection. There's no connection to her divine spark, to the infinite potential, the goodness, the greatness, the truth of who she is. And it is within her. She isn't awake or aware of who she is. She's not awake or aware, as many of us can feel. And I remember many years ago now, that, you know, I had everything around me. I remember it was at Christmas time, and it was full of people, it was full of lots of gifts, all the stuff was there. Laughter was going on, the Christmas music was playing, but there was an emptiness. There was a real hollow missing, like there was something not within me, but it was within me. I didn't recognize it, I didn't know it, I wasn't in the awareness. So I prayed to the Holy Spirit. Of all things, being a former Catholic, I prayed to the Holy Spirit. And I prayed for whatever it was that I would be guided to find. I didn't know about New Thought. I didn't venture to other religions. I didn't know. And it took 2 years before I finally connected with the teachings of Ernest Holmes, and that was it. One night, that was it. The minute I took a class, foundations class, the minute I heard what Ernest Holmes had written, I knew this was my truth. That's why I love this teaching so very much. And that, I call that a God hole. That God hole was filled. It was filled, and I love it, and it still is. And we can't ignite it if we're not aware of it. So that's why we come here on Sundays. That's why we're even in classes, or what, just to be together, to remember for each other, to be with like-minded people. So Dorothy goes looking for the home outside of herself. When she's still in Kansas, she looks for it by running after everyone on the farm to try to get their attention. Then she runs away. Remember when she has that scene where she sings Over the Rainbow? With that great voice of Judy Garland's great voice. Then she runs away and looks for it in Professor Marvel. Remember him?
Yeah.
And this is really interesting because remember after she had the crystal ball experience with Professor Marvel, she decides to go back to her physical home, but she goes back in a lot of fear. She's in a lot of fear. She's in a fear about Auntie Em, and she was very, very fearful of the big storm that was heading that way. And what does she do when she gets home? She finds she's even further away from really going home than before. She feels even more separate. As the closed doors to the storm symbolize, her fears have moved her even further away from knowing who she really is and what's really within her. And so she's left out in the storm, seemingly all alone. So her exploration continues. This time, it continues in the journey to Oz. Remember, everything is black and white before, and then only she goes over the rainbow. It's not over the rainbow yet, but she's over something. And she's in Oz. That's all I know. She winds up in Oz, and Dorothy, once again, is looking outside of herself. Even when she arrives in Oz, she's looking all around for answers for everything she thinks is missing, like many of us. And there really is a pointed lesson in here. We might get through one experience only to have it show up as another experience. Same feeling, different experience, but it's the same thing. It's not different because we keep looking outside of ourselves for the answers. We are always in this process of awakening. I mean, it doesn't end. It's beautiful. It's always in this process of waking up to the truth of who we really are. When we really get it to its full potential, wow, I guess then we'll be over the rainbow because we'll be one with the light. We are one with the light anyway. But when we allow it or not, this awakening will open up everything we have ever desired or needed. In Oz, Dorothy still doesn't wake up. She's looking outside of herself again. And then she starts to look for this pretty shady person who is going to solve all the problems, the Wizard of Oz. To take her home. The wizard's going to take her home yet again. She continues to look to him even after Toto reveals him to be a fraud. Remember when he pulled the curtain back at the end? She thinks he will get her home. She's still believing. She's still got her trust on the outside of what she can connect with and be aware of within her. The wizard promises to take her back to Kansas in his hot air balloon. But it's only after that balloon takes off without Dorothy does the wizard reveal that he doesn't even know how to work the balloon. This was the beloved Wizard of Oz. In Kansas, Dorothy is looking outside of herself for home. In Oz, she is looking outside of herself for home. But when Glinda tells her in a very famous scene, you've had the power to go back to Kansas all along. It is in that moment that Dorothy starts to awaken. The awareness, you can see it in her eyes, the awareness dawns on her, and she begins to trust her own power, her own inner spark, which in one of the talks was, the metaphor was her sparkly red slippers. It's not sparkly red. I don't even know if it's sparkly, but they were. Ruby red, ruby slippers. Her ruby slippers, yes.
Ruby red.
But she doesn't go home yet. She's still not going home yet. She has something important to do. And she has to stop and say goodbye to all of the companions that she met along the way. Perhaps much, much more than merely saying goodbye. Perhaps she is integrating what each one represented as herself. These intimate moments of connection with the Scarecrow, the Lion, and the one she's going to miss most of all, the Tin Man. So she wasn't saying goodbye. She was integrating all of those qualities within her. She told each of them that she couldn't have done this without them. And that's, if you remember, when the Scarecrow, who represents divine intelligence, the Tin Man, unconditional love, and the Lion, infinite courage and wisdom. These powers, and they're all are within us. Each and every one of these powers are innate God spark, our innate intelligence, are always present when we tap into them, when we integrate them. When we look to the outer circumstances, I've done it. It doesn't work for life. It lasts a minute. It lasts a second. It might last an hour or even a day, but then we go back to that emptiness until we fill it with the riches of the divinity which is within us. That's where our true home is. That's where it is. It's within us, and it will always be within us. We can't fill it up with things and without outer experiences. They're all good, they all feel good, but don't they pass? They always pass. Circumstances always pass. Your connection with the divine, when you cultivate it, is forever, and it is there, present, to get you through any kind of situation and circumstance. To be awake to our true self is to go home. There is an integration that's taking place within this movie, and especially at the end of this love, this wisdom, and this intelligence. To put a spiritual spin on the whole movie, though, in those moments, Dorothy finds God, who has a way of being there all along. And you know what God is represented by? No. The pink bubble. That pink bubble that Glinda's in is always floating around as Glinda makes her beautiful appearance with her gorgeous wand. All around in the pink bubble. I love that pink bubble. She feels God. She sees God in that moment. And by God, we just mean that divine energy that has created all that is, was, or ever shall be. The infinite allness of divinity. That's what she's seeing. That's what that pink bubble represents. Something that is closer than her hands and feet, as Holmes would say. Nearer than breath. This divinity that is everywhere, omnipresent. Glinda explains that she did not share this truth with Dorothy earlier because Dorothy wouldn't have believed her. She had to learn it for herself. We can sit there and study and read all we want, but until we go through those experiences where we apply what we are reading, where we take these spiritual truths and we actually live them, then it makes sense. Then we truly connect with our indwelling self and the self that is everywhere, the omnipresent power of God. So, in one of the talks I said that the ruby slippers symbolized Dorothy being let alone, not left alone. So she was let alone to find that herself. And that's what we are all called to do if we choose. No one can teach it to us. We have to experience it ourselves. And just to expand for a moment on that idea, self-awareness cannot be taught. It would be gained from those experiences. And the Zen poet Jeffrey Wolf so eloquently wrote this: experience isn't the best teacher, it is the only teacher. There's nothing else to take that place. So when you're going through things in life that are so unsettling, so upsetting, so seemingly horrific, if we go within and we just, any kind of mantra, affirmation, any kind of connection, I am one with the infinite life of God, I know that I am safe and secure, I trust with all, whatever it is. It connects us on such a deep level, and when that experience passes, and it always does, you are connected to your indwelling divinity so much deeper than you could ever have been through the bitter experiences. Holmes takes it a step further by saying it's not just experiences, but these bitter experiences. He writes this: we give intelligence outlet either by pure inspiration and intuition or by the way of bitter experience, and with most of us it is through the latter. Dorothy certainly went through some bitter experiences. What a great movie that is. I can't wait to see it again. But the awakening came the integration came through her experiences, and then one thing remained to take her home. There was one element that she needed to take her home. She needed to trust. How many of us need to deepen our faith in what we believe? Really, really believe it. To trust that she had the ability to go home. She had it all along. We all have it all along, but we don't believe it fully. We don't trust it. And by clicking her heels, which is a powerful metaphysical statement, we need to trust we are divine. And we need to trust that there is a divine law always working for us. It's activated by our word, by our thought, by our emotion. It's activated. The depth of our trust and our faith is the depth and the reality of what we truly experience in our lives. Ernest Holmes said, we should be careful not to divide our mental house against itself. Having announced the law of liberty, we must not deny it. Going home and knowing the place for the first time, that takes trust. It takes trust. It takes an integration of the love, the intelligence, and the power. All of them integrated as us. This spirituality is so empowering when we really, really trust that it works. The law of God works. Remember, God is all love and God is all law and can give back what is put into it. It is an energy, a field of intelligent, loving energy. And what we think and what we feel is what we put into it, and it comes back as our experience, always in all ways. So going home is about walking that spiritual path of self-discovery, following that yellow brick road. I love that. The yellow brick road to discover our inner spark. And Holmes writes this: we will deliver ourselves from sickness and trouble in exact proportion to our discovery of ourselves and our true relationship to the whole. Remember, we say this, but remembering it all the time, we are not separate. We just think we are. That divinity, that divine spark within us is connected to the all that I am. We are all that I am. We're having this human experience, and these physical bodies make us feel that we are separate. But in true reality, capital letters, we are not. There is only a unity. And Holmes, well, I read that already, okay. So, the whole movie has so much richness to it, and all of the talks have really gone into different aspects of it. And I want to wrap it up with a little meditation. Good intuition. And it's going home. So I ask you to take a breath with me. So we move into that divine intelligence, scarecrow, divine love, the Tin Man, and the infinite strength and power, the lion. And the powers for goodness and greatness as represented by the ruby slippers. So let's just breathe in the love and let go of all fear or doubt. Think of a challenge that you might have right now in your life. And know that this challenge is your outer experience. Take another breath and feel yourself go within. So breathe into and from your heart. A heart that has so much intelligence, so much love, no judgment. And so feel connected. Feel that divine love. And just let it flow, relaxing into it. And see a challenge saturated by this healing love. Just saturate it. And know that any condition is fleeting, always changing. It's an effect that truly has no power to it. Infinite intelligence guides you to perfect resolution, new cause, infinite possibilities. Each experience contributes to your spiritual growth, your expansion. So stay within, allowing your awareness to deepen. And know that all we need or desire begins with your recognition of a perfect power of goodness itself. Going home means going within. Communicating with your divine essence. Allowing that indwelling love, intelligence, and power to guide every thought, emotion, and every action. The ruby slippers reminding you of the God spark and greatness that is ready to be ignited. Allow yourself to let go and trust in the love that is within you to guide you and sustain your every need. So just let's take a breath. We're breathing in and through our hearts. And as we do, we see a beautiful pink bubble come into view. Yeah, see it in your mind's eye. And that pink bubble fills you with peace as it comes closer and closer until it envelops you with its beauty and with this message. You knew it all along. You always had the power. There is no place like home. So bring yourself back into this beautiful space. And I want you to repeat it after me. You knew it all along.
I knew it all along.
I always had the power.
I always had the power.
There is no place like home.
There is no place like home.
And again, I knew it all along.
I knew it all along.
You always had the power.
I always had the power.
There is no place like home.
There is no place like home.
And one more time so I get it right. I knew I had it all the time.
I knew I had it all the time.
I always had the power.
I always had the power.
And there's no place like home.
There's